Gallery. This is the first of our Sunday Art Talk series in conjunction with our current exhibition, Bodies, Waterland, Flesh, Evidence. So we'll have 3 consecutive Sundays in which we'll have a panel discussion of artists, and it will be a very informal discussion. I've got a series of questions that I'll ask each one. You are free to interject with questions or comments. We want to make this as interactive as you want it to be. So we have 3 artists today. We have Sam Grantham, we have Megan Caldwell, and we have Robert Ballard. So their work can be seen pretty in close proximity here. So what I'm going to do is give you a brief bio of each, just so you have sort of a starting point. So first let's start with Robert Ballard. Robert has exhibited in numerous juried shows across the Mid-Atlantic, and his paintings have been included in collections throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe. Working primarily in acrylics, here, and there are several around the corner and in the window. He embraces the process of creation. So many times you'll see kind of the underpainting and the drawing. He doesn't try to disguise that, so there's a real freshness. So known for his fresh and original approach, Robert holds a master's in art with additional coursework toward an MFA. With over 25 years of involvement in the local art scene, he's achieved steady success and continues to paint every day, deeply engaged with his craft. Okay, we've got Megan Caldwell. So her work is here and also on the end. Megan was born on an Indian reservation in Montana and raised in Winchester, Virginia. She developed a love for drawing very early as a young child. She studied painting and art education at Hendrix College and taught at Powhatan School and the Museum of the Shenandoah Valley. Specializing in oil painting, Megan often paints en plein air and from life. Her work is inspired by the natural beauty of the Shenandoah Valley with a focus on connections between the water and the sky, particularly the Shenandoah River. Megan seeks to capture both the physical presence and the spiritual essence of her subjects. Sam Grantham. His work is here. There's also some on the other side and also in the window. Sam Grantham is a surrealist folk painter known for his vibrant oil paintings, set against rich immersive backgrounds. Drawing inspiration from the raw energy of Delta blues, Bob Dylan, and Tom Waits, his work embodies the spirit of music and storytelling. Living with schizophrenia for 15 years has deeply influenced his creative process, turning painting into a cathartic and liberating act. In his studio, he creates a dynamic, almost happening atmosphere, painting and dancing to the rhythms of music that fuel his imagination. Anything I've left out that you guys would like to add? No? Okay. All right, so we're just going to begin. I'm going to start with a couple of questions, and we'll just go down the line. So I'll start with one just very general question. So Sam, can you walk us through your creative process? Like, how does an idea for a piece come to life? Where do you begin?
Well, I don't really have ideas. I just kind of wing it. I just look through magazines and stuff like that and just find pictures I like of advertisements and stuff like that, and I start painting realistically a subject, and then I add patterns and stuff, and I kind of mix the patterns and the realism and stuff together.
Okay, great. Megan, she has her own. How about you? How do you begin? What's the first thing you do?
I'm usually struck by something in nature. I'll see it, and my children laugh because I'm always pulling over. It's usually something that strikes me that I need to paint, and then I either start there or start at home, depending. And the first part's just fast and furious, and then I build and make it a little tighter in the studio. But
So when you say something I need to paint, do you mean like you pass by a vista and you have to paint that, or something more internal?
it's both. It's the feeling of it, something that's beautiful, but if you take a picture, it doesn't capture all of what it is. And so I feel like I have to paint it to make it feel like how it felt there. I'm not a photographer, so maybe a photographer could capture that feeling better, but
Okay.
but usually nature is like that.
Is what inspires you
Yeah.
first. Okay, how about you, Robert?
First of all, I thank Melissa for having us here today in this incredible gallery space. It's just wonderful. And also to be here with these two young, excellent artists. So just want to get
Thank
that
you,
in.
Robert.
For my figurative work, I search for images that follow a certain pattern. They typically they'd be sort of a curved image because that's going to fit the design format that I'm looking for. But once I block that in, then like Sam, I'm looking for inspiration. I'm exploring painting it, but at the same time, I'm sort of drawn into the possibility. It is a combination of introspection and observation. So I'm looking to use paint over the image to convey a vulnerability, not only of the image that I'm creating, but also the interaction between two individuals that you experience in life. So just add that. I don't have a plan. I'm just going to put paint on and see what comes from it, and then decide whether or not that's what I'm going to settle for.
So when you say the experience of two individuals, are you counting yourself as one and the image in the painting another, and that is the relationship you're referring to?
Yes.
So when you have a figure in a painting, it's a very specific kind of a personality that you imagine that you're interacting with?
A lot of it would be reflective of the experiences I've had over time. Marriage, friends, family, that sort of thing. But more so the intimate relationships that I've had. And, many times I'm not sure what the end result is going to be, and what's going to be revealed to me after I've finished the painting. It could be some years later that I look at it and I go, "Oh, that's what that's what it was." Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, what about reoccurring themes? Do you have any reoccurring themes or motifs?
So, when I was a kid, I went to an Escher exhibit with my dad when I was very young. And there's this one painting, I don't know if you know it, the one where like the fish come out of the checkerboard and they turn into birds and stuff like that, fish and birds.
I don't know
Back
it,
and
but
forth.
yeah.
But anyways, I made it like when I was a kid, I started drawing these fish that were like checkered, like inspiration from Escher. But it was different. It was just like a little fish that had a checkered eye and checkered body. And I would draw those a lot in my work.
How about now? Are there reoccurring themes?
Always women and animal, mostly women, men, and animal. Like a lot of women and animals and just, I don't know, flowers sometimes.
So I noticed that you tend to focus on like this.
Yeah, I don't like painting the body that much.
Do you know why?
Because it's just so, I like the face because there's so much interesting like different detail in the face, and the body is so like big blocks of color. And I don't like just doing things that are just uniform and big. I like to be more detailed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about you? Megan?
Water and sky. I love painting both of those. I love just being in the zone and not worrying about making sure that everything's right and worrying about it flows, and being able to go back from the sky to the water and back and forth with the paint in just thin layers. It's playful, it's fun. I prefer to paint that.
Okay.
So it's a theme. Oh, I didn't turn it on.
I forgot question?
Are there any reoccurring themes in your work? I know
Oh,
you've
sure.
worked in series, like you have a series of boxers, for example.
Yes, there are some boxers in this show, and I started a short series of boxers as a homage to my father, who boxed one of the short time he was in the Army, and also the short time that he was in college. And then and afterwards, in my formative years, we enjoyed sharing experiences of boxers, unlike Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, that was recently on.
Did you watch that?
Did you watch it?
Mike Tyson?
Did you watch it?
Sad.
No, I just kind of heard about it.
But generally the theme of the focus of my figurative work has been on capturing female images, and then trying, as I suggested earlier, trying to make that connection and express through colors and shapes and lines those relationships. So.
Okay. Are there any movements? Yeah.
Do you ever use live models for your work?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I'm open to that.
Yeah.
Craig?
So did you start out as a figurative artist, or were you a total abstract painter?
That's an excellent question. When I was in college, the first few years that I took painting classes, I had to decide how I was going to approach becoming an artist and what I was going to feature, and I decided that the human figure resonated most with the people that were going to be observing my work. So rather than choose still lifes or landscapes, there were two things. One, that I felt like that the figure would resonate more with the audience. But the second, I was a single male in college, and so women were important to me.
So are there any movements in art or personal experiences that have influenced your...
Well, getting schizophrenia when I was in college, I was about to transfer to the art school at VCU. I got schizophrenia, and like when I first got schizophrenia, I had a psychotic break. And during that time, I painted a lot, and I thought I had this thing called abstract thought. And it was like, I thought it was like passed from painters for like hundreds of years. And like I could see the paintings, but I was just hallucinating. But anyways, schizophrenia affected me a lot. I used to take like stimulants to paint, and I thought I needed stimulants to paint. I didn't paint for 8 years or draw or anything because I didn't have stimulants, and then after a while, I figured out I could paint without that, and I just could just drink coffee and stuff. And I paint a lot differently with schizophrenia versus non-schizophrenia. I'm a lot looser. I'm a lot less tight. Well, I get part of it's because I don't take stimulants anymore, because I would get so detailed and so immersed in like just perfection and stuff like that. But I'm a lot looser these days, and that affected me a lot. And I think part of the thing is, like, with schizophrenia, you have low motivation, and like you're apathetic and stuff like that sometimes. And like, I think that influences, it doesn't sound right, but it influences me in a good way, because I know when to stop, and I like to stop because I'm not motivated or something.
Yeah.
And like, not motivated. It's hard to explain.
So do you get in like a manic phase? Because I know you are very prolific, right?
Yeah, I paint a lot. I've
you have
painted
a
like 100
schedule.
paintings in the last few years.
Okay.
And I like to do things in one sitting, 1 or 2 sittings. And it's something I like to. It just happens that way.
So you don't revisit a painting. You kind of get it done.
Every once in a while I'll revisit a painting months later that I wasn't happy with. But every time I paint something, I think it's the best thing I ever painted. Every single time. Every single time I think it's the best thing I ever painted. And then I realized that, then like a week later, I'm like, this isn't that great. But it's just,
Okay, what about movements in art?
I like
or-
Dada. I like Dada. I don't know if I'm a Dadaist because it's like I know it's very well tuned with what that means and stuff. But I always thought of it as Dada because it just none of my paintings mean anything. They don't mean they mean absolutely nothing to me. They're just experiments in rhythm and color and shape. They're just supposed to be just taken. I don't know.
How about artists? Are there particular
I like
artists?
Picasso and I like William de Kooning. I like Basquiat. I like I don't know. That's the main ones I like.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you, Megan?
What exactly was that?
Do you have any artists, art movements, or life experiences that have particularly influenced the way you work or your subjects?
I think every shift in life, from like whether difficult or beautiful or major changes, the art's a place to go find peace for me. It's I think that's why I paint a lot of the landscapes and I paint nature because I'll find places that fill my heart up. And so working on them, regardless of where I am in other points of life, it's a happy place.
Like it grounds you?
Yeah,
And
it's
yeah.
grounding, the energy of it, it's fun, it's uplifting, and then I have them, and they become part of me.
And then you have to let them go.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's many painters I admire across the way. As far as portrait artists, John Singer Sargent's my favorite. His touch, his softness, and his ability to just paint effortlessly seeming. Ennis is one of my favorite landscape painters, and I like watching his work go from tighter to softer. But I like so many.
How about you? Movements in art, life experiences?
In college, I was very much attracted to the abstract expressionist, and that sort of been a driving theme for most of my career as an artist. Certainly over the last 25 years, I've tried to investigate and learn about other artists. In fact, currently, we live in a time where you can go to your computer and look up any artist, and there'll be videos featuring them or about them. So there's all this wealth of information, and I try to take advantage of that now. So I'm reasonably current on what I think's going on in the major art world, and try to assess whether that should reflect in my own work. Of course, I have limited skills, so I may aspire to something, but I just struggle to make that happen. But as Melissa said in the introduction, process is huge to me. I just love the aspect of creating the work, and then when I see other people's work, I'm looking for the evidence of the decisions they made when they're in the process of creating the work. So that often gives me chilblains when I'm looking at it. That's what a big deal it is.
Okay. So speaking of technology, how has technology influenced your practice? Do you use technology? Do you think about it?
I don't really use much technology. The only thing I do is I use my Apple Watch. I mean, like, I have a speaker in my living room, and I paint in the kitchen. The kitchen's right next to the living room, and I play a playlist or something, and I can change the tracks on my watch. That's the only technology I use.
Do you use reference images that you get on
Oh,
the internet?
Not very often. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But I usually just kind of look through. My friend gets Rolling Stone magazine, so he just gives me all his Rolling Stones, and I usually look through those.
Mm-hmm. And you'll like tear sheets out, or?
There's tear sheets out all the time, yeah.
And so, do you use images like directly? Do you use it like to kind of? I'm going to make a portrait of that person.
I just sometimes I'll start a portrait with one person, one person I'm using, and then I'll use another person and several different things for the same face.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Megan?
I love the ability to learn that you can go and through Instagram and find so many other artists, and if there's something they're doing, you can go a little deeper, whether it's color or technique and learning different palettes of different painters. Music, definitely use music. And the ability to photograph something and take it back to the studio when the light's changing is quite helpful.
When you're working on something and at the end of the day, do you ever take a photograph of it and then look at it later and kind of see what?
Yeah, I do take photos all the way through and across. I leave art in my path day to day so that I walk by it and look at it. That's easier than a photograph.
So you work on several pieces at once?
Yes, like 8.
So I know you work from, in plein air, outside. Do you get kind of a rough sketch out, then you bring it back to the studio?
Yes.
And just from memory, or do you reference?
That I'll take lots of photos while I'm there too, and be able to use that. So
Do you ever go back to the location?
often it's
Yeah.
clumsy and messy and fun.
Technology.
Yeah, I got nothing.
You got nothing?
Good answer.
Okay, so I'm going to ask kind of a question that might be a little hard to answer. And how do you feel art is important in society? Like, how does it function? Do you think it's important for society or culture?
I think it makes you feel really human, and it's a very human experience. And it's like, for me, it's very cathartic, and it's like, it makes me feel like I'm on the planet. Makes me feel grounded, and I think it's just, I think painting, like, we're all painters, and like, I think there'll always be painting, like actual physical painting forever. I don't think that's ever gonna like, just like digital replace that or anything like
So
that.
you're not concerned about AI or anything
No.
like that?
Not at all.
Have you ever experimented with it?
No, I'm not interested. I mean, I was like interested when I was younger in doing the thing where you draw on the screen, yeah, or whatever.
Oh, you mean Etch-a-Sketch?
Yeah, you know that thing like where
You do.
like it's like a pad, it's like a mouse pad, but you draw on it and it goes on the screen.
Okay.
No, it's-
Is it a program?
Digitizer.
Like a walk.
A digitizer.
Tablet. Yeah, like something
Okay.
like that. Yeah,
Okay.
but
But you like old school, tactile,
Yeah.
the smell of the
Definitely,
paint, the
yeah.
whole thing.
I can't even. I painted for years with no ventilation, so
Nice.
so I don't know if I'm gonna get cancer tomorrow or something, but
You seem like you're doing fine.
I'm good. I'm a good, healthy boy.
You are. You are. All right. Yeah. So, in your view, like, what role does art play? Would you say?
I think it's everywhere. I think it's like a massive part of the heartbeat of our world and culture. I don't think AI will make it go away. I think it's just a different form, a different place for people to explore and express. I think the physical process of creating is so huge and important and such a part of everything, whether it's in jewelry or architecture, or designing and like putting all this together, curating, or actually painting itself. I did little clay pots with my kids yesterday, and just watching them, like a 3-year-old, make snakes and put stuff together. It's just such a part of who we are to create. So I don't think.
And then it gets beaten out of us. Some of us.
Thank
But then
God.
some of us remain children, which is a good thing.
Yes.
I recently bought a book titled The Work of Art by Adam Moss, I believe, and in it he has interviews with a lot of individuals across, not only artists, but composers and authors and things like that. And so I was reading an excerpt about Amy Silman, who's an artist. And so I went online and watched a video, and she's explaining her process, and I'm going, wow, I wish I could talk about my work the way she talks about her work, but I can't. So we're just gonna have to muddle through. You know, we seem to be sort of an inflection point within the country. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves for me personally, and especially I've been working on a lot of smaller semi-abstract landscapes, and I'm trying to see how I can express what my recent experiences were in the art that I'm creating. So is it a choice of making, should I be making choices of darker colors? Or how should I express that in the work, and am I capable of doing it? I share this to suggest there are artists out there and other individuals who've been more involved, as Gomer has, more involved in the political scene, more involved in using their visual expression to reflect on what's going on in society, and I aspire to that, and I think art can reflect, although it may not change much, but I'm curious and interested to see how things play out.
Do you think in times of conflict or, you know, adversity that artists have an advantage, or do you think in times of calm it's better for art making? Or do you think, I guess it would depend, but what is your experience?
I would suggest it would be naive of me to think that I could understand for individual artists whether it mattered more if it were calm or not.
Yeah.
Obviously, during conflicts and times of stress and stuff, I would suspect it's going to show up in the work of many artists, or whether that's their focus or not, it's hard to say. Does that make sense?
So, Sam,
Yeah.
how does, like, the interaction between your art and viewers, like, how do you feel hearing from the viewers when they express themselves regarding your work? Like, does that influence you at all?
I don't even, half the time I don't even think about what I'm painting. I don't even know what it is. Like, people say like, oh, this looks like that, or this, he's making this face. I don't paint a particular face for any reason, to convey anything. I just paint it, and then I learn a lot about it when people start talking about it.
So you don't consider that in your art making, like how
Oh,
it's going to be
somebody
viewed, or how it's going to be
I just want it to
received?
look good.
How do you define good?
Just good composition. This is a good balance, good flow of all the colors, good dark and light, stuff like that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But people my mom gives me advice all the time, and I usually take it every time. I take advice all the time. Because I don't really, like when you have schizophrenia, you don't think as much. Like, you're more instinctual. Like, there's something, schizophrenia is something called poverty of thought. And it's just you don't think that much. And when I get input from somebody about something I can think about, I'm like, welcome it, because it didn't come up before, you know?
Okay. So you're open.
Yeah.
Always. To good ideas.
Always good, open to good ideas. And any idea is a good idea if you just use it the right way, you know?
Sure. All right. How about you, Megan? Does it matter, or do you consider it the viewer?
Not really. It's sort of sharing something, so maybe like that. There are scenes and places that I'll paint that are special to me, or the moment was special, and so it's inviting someone in to see it in my perspective. That part.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about you, Robert? Is it part of your process to consider the viewer or their reactions to your work?
I certainly do. It's in my thoughts when I choose the image that I'm going to paint, and in the process of the design, how I format it, all of that's I'm conscious of the fact that once it's exhibited in a wonderful space like this, does it pop? Does it stand out? Does it get your attention? But at the same time, I have other goals, of course, that are more personal, where I'm trying to express myself and the relationship between another individual and myself in the painting that's there. Personal experience, while I respect and appreciate all the comments from my patrons about how much they appreciate my work and what they see in it. As a rule, if I say, well, let me explain that in this image, you know, I was in part focused on the carotid triangle on their neck, but it's a sensitive part, and you know, I formatted the image just so that you could see that, and that's nothing. And I'm talking to myself, so, but it's just part of the experience, so, whether or not I'm influenced by anything anyone says, I'm open to it, as Sam suggested, but it usually doesn't play out in the long run, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Sam, how do you deal with creative burnout? Like, how do you recharge your creative juices or get them flowing if you're feeling alone?
I just kind of go socialize for a while in the community. I'll just go to the bars and stuff for a while and just kind of hang out for a couple of days. Or just, I don't know. I just kind of...
But you drink coffee, right?
I drink lots of coffee.
Yeah, you're not a drinker.
No, I don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I go to the bar and I drink coffee.
And you just like to kind of be in the environment.
Yeah, I just like to be around people.
Mm-hmm. Well, you paint a lot of people.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Maybe that helps, I don't know.
yeah.
It could.
So you don't stay in a rut or like in...
No, I don't usually go very long without painting.
Mm-hmm.
I try to paint like at least 4 or 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times it's every day.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I only paint like an hour or 2 in a day. If I stay up all night till the morning and I just kind of, I go to bed at like 7 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of like watch TV and then I'll paint some. But once I start painting, I don't watch as much TV. I get into that. But I try to get started by between 11 and 2
In the afternoon.
at night.
Oh, at night. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a night owl. You
Night owl, yeah.
Yeah. Less distractions, right?
Yeah, no one's to bother. No one's out to bother you. Like you can do whatever you want. You know.
Yeah.
I like the freedom.
Right.
No one expects anything of you
You
at
don't have-
night. You know, you're not supposed to like get your business done at like 2 in the morning.
Right, no one's gonna call you.
Yeah.
Megan, how about you? Do you ever get in sort of a rut or a creative slump? And if so, how do you get yourself out of it?
I don't have time for that. I paint for a living. If I lose, like if I'm feeling, I don't know, a little stuck, I'll run into the woods. I'll scrape all my palettes down and clean my brushes. Like I paint every day, so I'll start something for me. That's another, like right now I have several commissions that are sitting around the house that I have to do, and I'm doing one that I want to do instead.
So you know, you have faith that once you just get going, you're gonna take off. Like you don't have doubts about that.
Right.
Mhm.
When I was younger, I did. Like I would get in an actual rut and not paint for a few days.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a discipline now. It's something that I would just go and do. And I would use music actually, like this kind of boring beat of music.
Oh, just
That if I can turn it on, I can sort of at least put myself in the space and then can go from there and get back into the flow.
So you have your kind of rituals that you can turn to.
Yes.
Do you have
Even
any-
when the world is crazy around.
Do you have any like, I don't know, like particular brushes or something you have to wear or anything that kind of triggers like, okay, now it's work time or like now it's getting in the zone time?
Kind of. Yeah. weird, comfortable clothing and music. Like when I have to force myself into the moment and run around the house. My partner's been laid up after an accident for the last 3 weeks, motorcycle accident. And I'm used to working by myself, and he doesn't get to see the crazies because he's gone. So that's
And how many kids do you have?
I have 4. So, but my oldest is not in the house. She's grown up. So,
So you're balancing a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a, like I said, it's a place of peace. It's a place to go. Except for now, he has to hear me. Get the crazies out before I start painting.
Hi, come on in. It's okay. It's okay. We've been waiting for you.
For me personally, I don't mind the period of time where I'm not painting. I'm comfortable with that. At the same time, I understand if I wait too long, if I mess around for too long a period, then I'll experience some doubt when I start to return to painting. And the skills are what's the word for it? You have to practice at it, or it's kind of like exercising. If you don't stay with it, you lose some of those skills, especially, at least it's true for me. So I understand that. But at the same time, generally, I'm fine with taking some time off and, yeah.
Sam, what do you wish more people understood about being an artist, about the life of an artist?
It's a really hard one.
Yeah.
I guess,
Or like misconceptions about what people think the life of an artist is.
I think some people get caught up in the image of being an artist. As I think sometimes when people are so worried about their image of being an artist, that they're usually not as good as, they're not as good a lot of the time when you're worried about the images so much. But like, I don't know, I just think it's very, I don't know, I'm lost.
It's okay, it's
Yeah.
okay. Anything, like are there misconceptions that you think people have about the life of an artist, especially one that's their job, like they're working artists, they're also juggling a lot of other things.
My siblings think that I make it look easy.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's work. Seriously, it's 40 hours of work a week, just like. But I think it's in a lot of us. I think that the job of a working artist, you have to wear many hats, and I think that's something that you have to do your marketing, you have to do your putting on of the shows, unless somebody like you is doing that part, which is wonderful. Keeping it all going, it's like any other business, and the art part, I think it's so important to not lose that internal flame while juggling all the other stuff, because that's kind of the source and where it's all at anyway. But
Right.
I don't know, I mean, from the outside looking in at this point.
I think that's an important point, though, that we haven't discussed, like all the peripheral things that go into being an artist as a business.
Right.
People don't really consider, like, all of the moving parts, the plates that you have to keep spinning.
I printed this out earlier, so I'm going to read it to you. An artist is anyone capable of conceptualizing an emotion, idea, or moment, or of more value, someone who can express themselves using their imagination. I thought that was relevant, but if I were going to talk about it from my own perspective, it's being an artist is more like a belief. It's
Like a philosophy of
I
life?
agree with him.
in many respects, and it's a way of seeing the world. I'm not saying that everyone that walks down the street isn't capable of seeing the same things that I see, but many of us all in this room, full of artists. We practice at seeing the world with an open mind and looking for things that we didn't expect to see, and things that we can explore and learn about. It's just sort of for me personally, it's more like a belief and experience. So when I have individuals, I introduce myself and I say I'm an artist, and they'll say, well, I can't draw a thing. And I didn't say I'm an impatient draftsman. It's certainly not one of my skills. And they say, well, I don't have room. You can work in small spaces, can't you? Say,
Yeah.
Either they don't have room or it's too big of a mess. It's a conversation that ultimately becomes irrelevant and boring. An artist is a choice, and I encourage everyone to consider it. The flip side of it is they suggest as a profession, it's really hard.
But it's also equally hard to not practice it if it is so intrinsically a part of, like what you're saying,
Well,
where
that's an excellent
and I so agree with you that it's a choice and it's a way of being. So it's almost like you have to find a way to make it, or your spirit's gonna wither.
And you're gonna make everybody around you really miserable.
Yeah, it's definitely a way of life.
And never come back.
Yeah.
Especially this
Yeah.
fall.
Okay, so last question. Are you working on anything? Do you have an idea for a body of work, a series of work?
I don't have any ideas.
No, it's just
I don't have any
you're
ideas.
in the moment.
I have no clue.
Okay.
No, I just pick up pieces of shit and paint it.
So, how about you, Megan? A series, do you work in a series or?
I'm always painting what's around me, partly just out of simplicity and ease, which ends up being the seasons. So I thought about incorporating that, but I am wanting to do one called Wind and Tide and go explore the bay and water. That's an area that I want to go to and paint. So.
How about you, Robert?
Over the last number of years, I've first explained I've been known more for my figurative work than the work that I've done exploring whimsical landscapes and currently semi-abstract landscapes, which in some respects I can admit was probably not the best choice, because people aren't comfortable making the transition from knowing you as a figurative artist and seeing different work and saying, well, wow, this I love where you're going with this. They just don't. They struggle with it. So it is what it is.
Oh, so you think it's kind of a trap to be known for some particular brand or
I'm
style?
not gonna use that as an excuse.
So you don't worry about that? You
I
just
think about
carry
it.
on?
I think about it because I'm faced with it on a regular basis, because I'll show people what I'm working on and these small figurative landscapes, and they go, "But I love your figurative work," and well, yes, sure, but this is what I'm doing, and so it doesn't translate very well. But at the same time, to answer your question, based on the renewed enthusiasm I've gotten, all of which came about by showing my work in your gallery, I've stretched new canvases, and I hope to start a series of figurative work I can show next year at some point that may or may not include older naked women.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
How about
I
questions?
appreciate that too.
How about questions? Anybody? Greg?
So, Megan, you grew up on a reservation?
I was born there. My parents moved when I was little, and then we settled in the valley. So
Do you have Native American?
no, my
Connections?
father was the chief doctor there, so
Yeah.
we would some Appalachia Cherokee, but not the Blackfoot tribe where we were.
And he
So,
delivered you, didn't he?
yeah, he delivered us all at home. So
How do you have, with 4 kids, how can you work 40 hours a week?
all the time, like it just starts in the morning, and there's paintings everywhere. It's kind of funny, like when things get moved around, but there's a studio space, but the dining room table is filled with art right now.
So you've never been tempted to paint your children?
Oh, I have paintings, drawings and paintings of
Uh-huh.
them all the time. They're all unfinished because they move too fast, and then they go on the wall.
Do you have more than one palette, like in each room, or?
I have several palettes, and I'll work on different palettes for, like, my other bread and butter this time of year is pet portraits, just because it pays the bills.
It's Christmas.
So,
Yeah,
yes,
people like to
Christmas.
vote.
So that's the part where, in like dealing with your audience, where sometimes you are painting to please people, I guess, for portraiture and stuff like that. But I love animals, so I love painting them. But yes, there's several different palettes going at once, and several different setups. So
How old are the children?
my oldest will be 21 in February, and then she's out in Salt Lake City right now studying. And then I have a 14-year-old daughter who's a freshman, and a 12-year-old boy who's in 6th grade, and a 3.5-year-old who is a
So
budding
no
artist.
excuses, folks.
Yeah.
And 5 dogs
Spread.
and 6 cats and 2 doves and some
Five
fish.
You're lazy,
Oh.
You're lazy.
See? And with heels on and backwards.
No, really. So the children are born into an artistic household. They kind of get used to the routine when they're little and
Oh yes.
kind of follow.
Oh yes.
And they know when you're working and kind of like you have a routine together.
They know, and they're wonderful because they all wander about and just help and do. They've all done a little bit themselves. So
Do they have their own palettes, or they?
no, I'm not that organized. But there's always art supplies everywhere. They get to do more watercolor. It's easier.
Sam, how many paintings a year do you do?
A lot. Maybe like 50,
Wow.
40, 50. I do like 2 a week a lot of the times.
Sort of this scale?
This is my favorite size, 3 foot by 4 foot, and 3 foot. It's usually 3 foot by 4 foot or 3 foot by 3 foot.
Wow.
But yeah, I do a lot of paintings. It used to take me, like, I did more paintings in this last couple of years than I did, like, in 8 years before I had schizophrenia.
So it's working for you.
Yeah, it works. I don't care. Whatever.
Has your style changed from the?
Yeah, it's a little looser. A lot looser. I used to do these very detailed ink drawings, like surrealistic ink drawings. And I hate when I show them to people and they're like, oh, I love this, oh, it's so great, because I don't do anything like that anymore.
So you just started blasting away.
Yeah,
So you work pretty thin. I mean, it's.
Yeah, it's
so you
thin.
just lay it out.
You
and
said
then-
it actually go thicker.
And then it tells you what to do.
Yeah, I just kind of, like, say I usually just paint the canvas like a yellow or something, or purple, and then I just start with the eye, and then I'll, like, just put some pattern somewhere, and I just try to connect 2 things with the patterns. Like, I'll do 2 different subjects, or like a subject in the a subject of the background, and I try to connect them and make the composition work. Yeah?
Robert, when you put together your compositions, when you're thinking about a person or an experience, and you're starting to frame a composition, I noticed that you mentioned that you got caught up in the sort of the triangulation of a particular part of the body in one case. But when you're organizing a composition, are you thinking of it reflective of the person experience? In other words, if it's fluid or soft or whatever, you kind of do more curves, or how do you get into your compositions?
Thanks for the question. Typically, I'm looking for images that I'm going to be able to format that follows a certain design pattern that's been part of my history since the very beginning.
Okay.
So there's going to be well, not necessarily representative of this, but these 2 paintings here, you can see instead of a curved figure, I put a line in. So if you start with a line in the top left corner and then follow it down to the like the lady with the oranges, then you have that angle that takes you down to the bottom of the canvas, and then my goal is to try to get you to go back up to the top. So it's just a simple design where from where you're standing, it curves down, and then you work your way back up. I look for that, and for almost if I'm working with an image where that's not part of the design, then I'm trying to figure out how because it's always it's a cubish space that all my paintings exist in, so it's shallow. There's really very rarely is there any depth to it. So if I don't have that curve, then I'll try to reflect it in the background some way with shapes and stuff.
So you start out linear on the canvas. Your first thing you do is put in lines, because quite often you see a linear aspect to the work underneath.
Like a grid?
No,
The
no,
drawing.
just the
Just
shape making.
like a
Like
graphic?
Yeah, I mean,
So
there's
do you lay down like a graphic sort of?
I do not.
You start with a figure?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that will start you right.
And so this sort of choreography or composition that you're speaking about, does that happen organically, or do you just sort of intuitively know, like, okay, I want the, like, does that reveal itself? You know, what you were describing about the eye traveling, does that reveal itself, or is it something you know going in?
It's so important to me that it's planned. It's planned, part of the process. I'm generally not comfortable unless I see that in my painting. So that's what I'm anticipating, is I'm going to be able to look at it and see that design. That it's just the way it is.
So the goal is movement, I guess, which is always a great thing to have in a piece of art, right? There's always this movement going on top of the figures, which I think is fascinating. That's the beauty of art.
You kind of superimpose things, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone else?
I realized your one painting was like that she's stabbing or murdering an orange.
Maybe.
I see
Or
the-
maybe it's
I
just
see the
a
knife
simple
there.
domestic scene.
If I made the original painting where I first I decided to do a series of older women. I thought they were, or older people, but they were all women. I thought they were more interesting than, say, a still life. But I felt it was important to show their hands. So at least this much part of the body, so I could include those hands, which are very expressive. And in this one, it was an older lady who was sitting there contemplating cutting open an orange. And the painting that I completed was just a few days before 9/11. And it spoke to me that in some way it was touching on what I couldn't anticipate would happen at that time. So since then I've tried to recreate that painting, and many times I'm not satisfied with it, so I'll paint over it, and you'll get these multiple layers. It's like screens. There's painting, but there's screens that are overlapping. Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, thank you all
guys.
so much for sharing. Thank you all for being here. All right. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Go back there.
Thanks so much for being here. We have another one next weekend with different artists. Never know what's going to happen. Thanks for coming. Are you still doing photographs?
I was saying that sort of I always like to photograph my